This is a story, one of the stories that have changed my life, but also changed my practice and my perspective of healthcare. I always looked at myself as someone who can solve all the problems of patients. My focus was mainly on the final clinical presentation of the patient. But one day, we had this mother who had traveled from one of the far districts in the far east of Uganda. She just given birth to a child with a birth defect where the intestines of the child are exposed. And of course, it's an emergency. It needs to be sorted out. For this mother here, she was alone. She had a husband who left her. He must have been overwhelmed by the fact that the child was born with a birth defect. So he left, and she was on her own. She was referred to a hospital, but it was not easy for her to access the hospital because, first of all, it was raining heavily, the roads were washed away, and so she had to access our facility by going through another country. She went to Kenya, and then from Kenya she came back to Uganda. That was the only alternative route, although it was a longer route, but that's the only route that would maybe lead her to our place. And so she arrived on the third day. Imagine you have a sick child, you've just delivered, and you're arriving 3 days after you set off from home. The baby died on arrival. Everyone put blame on her for taking long to arrive, for coming late, and I remember words, especially from my colleagues. They kept saying, if you had come earlier, maybe would have saved your child, but you know the fault is yours. I don't know why, of all people, she chose me, but I remember her calling me aside and said, Doctor, I feel bad that my child is dead. If you don't mind, let me explain everything that happened. She did everything she could within her means to get to hospital. And here she is with nothing, but then she has to take on the same journey that she took to return home and have the child buried. And so I began to ask myself whether I really knew much about these patients here. It's one thing knowing about the disease, but it's another knowing about what exactly happens. And from that day, I think that's when I realized that sickness is really the sum total of so many problems, some of them social, others political, others economical. Everything works together to make someone sick.